we going? Good. Okay. All right, so here we go again. So the class will be, now we're on video, so the class will be turn in your worksheets, and then we'll do lecture after that. And then all of February we'll be going through mostly book and lecture and heavy stuff on carbohydrates and protein and electrolyte and vitamins. You'll learn all about that stuff. A lot of chemical makeup, how it works in the body, how you can help your patients, in supplementing them or teaching them, that type of thing. We'll kind of make it real applicable. That's my goal, is that you walk away with skill sets. So then when you're in working with your patients, you can actually talk to them about things like, how do you eat at home? What kind of, you just had this surgery, so, what kind of nutrition plan do you have at home? Do you just make meals for yourself? Do you have to make meals for your family? I mean, there's a lot of stuff you could be involved in. There's a lot of really good things you could teach your patients. Or if you're working with athletes, the same thing. You could get into what they need to know and how to help them with their training. So I think I covered it in last Friday's lecture. 80% of health is nutrition, and then 20% is that exercise piece to it. So I've got some research that I'll show you on that too, just to kind of back that up. Oh, stick with the plan here. Okay, so let's talk about my office hours. My office hours are going to be, I'm at the clinic almost all the time. So I do 31 clinical hours treating patients, and then I do 9 hours teaching 3 classes. So I don't have office hours. But on Fridays, after Friday class, I don't have anything going on. So if you need to talk to me, that's the best time. The other time is just to show up at the clinic, and then my office manager will be there, and then she can schedule on a time that we can get you guys in, okay? So I'll probably be there. If it's something real quick, I can just answer a question. Just pop in. Normally it's not a big deal, and then I'll be able to answer your question, just break away from my patient and answer the question, okay? I treat patients on Mondays and Wednesdays right up until 8:45. So I'm booking it over here, and then I'm getting set up. So if anything goes wrong in that 10 minutes, I may be a bit late. I don't typically do that though, but that's where I'm coming from. And then I've got it right after class. I've got to get back because I have patients over there right after class. So, but again, I want to make myself accessible. We can always talk on the phone. We can do emails. Don't email me assignments like we talked about on Friday. This folder right here, everything needs to go in that folder. If it doesn't get in that folder, I don't check you off, then you won't get a grade for it. So just kind of remember that. Okay. Let's see. PowerPoints, all the PowerPoints that I'm going to do are on Blackboard. Okay, so you can just, if you want to print those in advance and have those ready and take notes as we're doing the PowerPoint, do that. Or whatever your system is, just know that they're there and you can review them. Okay. I think that's pretty much it. What I'm going to do now, we'll move into a Devo. So every class, oops, sorry, let me back up a little bit. So we're going to do turn in our worksheets. We're going to do Devo, prayer, and then we'll go into lecture. That's kind of typically how the class is going to run. Okay, so if you sign up for a Devo, and I've got the Devo sign-up sheet, and I'll send that around while I'm doing my Devo. If you sign up for that, let's see, I think I'll make that worth 10 points. Okay, so that's pretty significant. So if you miss a couple worksheets, which some of you are going to due to sickness or whatever, you don't have to worry about it if you do a Devo. So Devos are real simple. If you have a video that you just saw that's an inspirational video you love, it doesn't have to be a Christian video, it can just be an inspirational video, and you want to get up and show the class, that's fine. And just explain, hey, I really like this video, and this is why. That's pretty easy. Or if you're doing a devotional already, just if you want to read the devotional because you thought it was really cool, that's good too. Or if there's a life experience, or you want to give your testimony, whatever. It's really good. It really bonds the class together. It's really good to share. So I'll send that around. Again, there's point values attached to that, so that's a little extra incentive. I like to hear you guys' Devo because I can't stand doing Devos for a whole semester because I get sick of hearing myself talk. So that's kind of my deal. Okay, so I'll pass off that sheet. And you guys can sign up for that. I also have all the sheets that you guys signed up for. So if you didn't make note of who you're with or what group or any of that, I have them all up here. So you guys can check it out if you need to on the way out. Any questions so far? Class goes from 8:55 until 9:55. I'm going to try to be on time, and we'll start right on time, and we'll get going. Okay. If you contact me in advance and say, Tuesday before the Wednesday class, you're sick, and there's just no way I'm going to make it just because I'm down and out, email me and just say, I'm not going to be there, and and then just bring your worksheet down on Friday for the Wednesday, and I'll give you credit for that. If you don't send me an email or a text, then there's just no grace for that. Everybody good at that? All right, so. Okay, so let's start with, because my computers and everything are down, we may do the worksheets at the end of class, just so I've got to figure out the flow here. With this being off too, I'm kind of figuring out how I'm doing everything, so hang with me until I get my flow. So we'll do, and you can take notes if you want to on the worksheets too as we're going. So Devo, let's see. So I kind of got into a heavy Devo on Friday. That was kind of a heavy one. They don't have to all be like that, the ones you guys are doing. So right now I'm in the book of Acts, and I'm reading through, it's called Read Through the Bible in a Year. But, you know, and I've started in Genesis in January like 15 times, and I'm so sick of starting in Genesis in January. So started in the New Testament, kind of threw it out of order a little bit. And so I'm working through the book of Acts right now. And we're into Paul, and Paul is just going out and doing his ministry work. And one of the things that, I don't know, does anyone remember about Paul and asking for the thorn to be removed from his side? Yeah. What do you think that thorn was? Is that, was it really some type of thorn, or what do you think? Does anyone have any insight on what that thorn was? Anybody kind of pondered that or heard it in like a sermon or anything? Something with his hip. Okay, like Jacob or something like that. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? Yeah, I've heard of headaches. I don't know what historian I read that from, but headaches. And so in the book of Acts, I think it was in chapter 14. I read, I think, like 12 through 17 this morning, and he's teaching, and the Pharisees get all upset at him, and they pull him outside of town, and they stone him, and they think he's dead, and they leave him for dead. And then he gets up and he goes back into town and he starts preaching again. And so I can only imagine if you get stoned, you probably have a lot of head injuries. So I'm thinking that he probably had some headaches that were into that. But he prayed to God, and did God take that thorn away from him? No. Why do you think that is? I mean, why didn't God? I mean, Paul's out doing this amazing work. Why wouldn't God just take it away? I mean, Paul's healing people, and Peter's healing people, and everyone, all the apostles are healing people. Why didn't God take that thorn away? Any ideas? Safe environment. You can throw out any answer you want. It's good.
I heard a sermon on it one time, and they figured that maybe it was because, like, to show that just because, like, you follow God, your life isn't always going to be perfect. Like, there's still going to be hard things, but, like, if you keep your faith with God, like, He'll bless you through that, even though, like, you have the hardships or whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of almost like a grounding thing, right? It's like, oh, I'm immortal. You know, it's like, Paul is a pretty good dude. I mean, he was doing some amazing things, filled with the Holy Spirit, and the power he had was just incredible. And the apostles too. I mean, Peter was doing crazy, great stuff and all that. But so right, it's kind of a grounding to remind you of your mortality, to kind of just. So I mean, how many people have difficulties right now that they're kind of struggling with and working through? Yeah, me for sure. I got some physical things that are definitely thorns. Praying to God, prayed this morning, hey, can you take these away from me? But it's just keeps you grounded. It keeps you also communicating with God the Father too, and just say, hey, listen, you know, I can't do this on my own. This isn't going to be easy. I'm going to need you through the whole time. So just know that everybody goes through hard times, and it's normal. And I think that's the human experience. And everybody wants to climb the mountain. I mean, this is what I thought for years and years. You know what? I'm going to learn more about God and Jesus, and I'm going to learn the scriptures, and I'm going to be good, and I'm not decrease my sinning and all this stuff. I'm going to climb the mountain, and I'm going to be on the mountaintop then. That's where I want to be. I want to be on the mountaintop. And how many people have ever been on the mountaintop before? Raise your hand if you've been on the mountaintop. Nobody? Yeah, I mean, sometimes you do, right? Sometimes you have those mountaintop experiences. Do they last for a long time? Maybe not. So I can tell you for me, they don't. Because I do something stupid again and then end up. But I'll tell you that, and I might blow your socks off here a little bit, but I was studying this, reading this book by Pema Chodron, who's a Buddhist nun, okay? And she said that really life is about, it's not about climbing the mountain, getting to the top of the mountain and experience the mountaintop experience. Actually, life is about sitting in the valley, not being fearful, not having it change your faith. Just sit there and just know that you're surrounded by God the Father. And the nice thing about sitting in the valley is that, guess what? Everybody else is normally in the valley with you. So if you want to teach people, reach out to people, they're all right there next to you. So the cool thing is, sitting in the valley, just don't be fearful, hold on to your commitment, work on your relationship with God, all that, and you'll be able to teach a lot of people and do a lot of amazing things. So do you think Jesus was up on the mountaintop all the time? No, he wasn't on the mountaintop. If he wanted to be the king, he could have been the king. He wasn't the king. I mean, what about Gandhi? I mean, was Gandhi on the mountaintop? No way. He dove right into the valley. He wanted to be there with the people. I mean, Martin Luther King, he went down in the valley. He wanted to be with all the people. So it's important to be in the valley, sit in it, and just know that these hardships, the thorns in your side are supposed to be there. You can learn from them. It makes you lean on God. And so there's my Devo for today. All right. I do have a blog page where I have tons of Devo, and I'll share that with you sometime. But that's it for today. Let's say a quick prayer. Our Father in heaven, we bow our head and we give thanks for this day. We give thanks for the opportunity to gather together with you. And I know that everybody has a little thorn in their side, including me, Heavenly Father, and you know that everybody has a little thorn in their side here. And just help them in any way that they need to be helped at this time, whether that be encouragement or whether that be just someone reaching out and connecting with them or whatever that may be, and just help whoever and everybody in their needs, and just be with us and guide us and direct us. And we're so thankful again for all the blessings you bestow upon us, especially our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, his atonement that he made for us. And we say also in the name of the last name, Jesus Christ, amen. Okay. All right, so today we're going to primarily focus on chapter 1, which is just really introduction in the book. So if everyone wants to take their book off, because we're going to reference the book a little bit too. So. And as we're doing this, I'll pass out the Devo sign-up sheet. And I think we have 18. If you really feel inspired, you can sign up for 2. Yeah, 2. You can sign up for 2 if you feel inspired to do that. All right, here we go. Here comes the fun. Okay. Let's see, are you willing to discover how much you could improve your health with an optimal diet? So there's a couple of resources, and I think to truly explore your diet, you actually have to then start to kind of look at your diet and what you're eating. So Cronometer is one of the websites that I talked about, and let's see if I can pull that up real quick. And guys, I want to show you guys Cronometer because it's pretty cool. And you don't have to do this forever. It's normally after you do Cronometer. So after you do Cronometer for like 2 weeks, you get an idea of everything. It's going to show you all your B complexes and all your vitamins and all your protein intake. It's going to show you carbohydrate intake, your fats, whether they're omega-3s or omega-6s, everything. Cronometer will do everything for you. And it's got a bar scan where you can scan stuff in, which is super easy. It's got a huge database to look up. So you put Apple in, you just, it'll pull up Apple, you just punch it, and then it'll add everything to it. It's really a nice site. So let me see if I can show you some other stuff. We're going to be working with this a little bit. So like these are some of the nutritional reports that can come off of it. So I mean, these are all your different, like I can't really read them that well. No, I just don't have a screen. So anyway, so you got your protein, and it shows you energy, protein, fats, and carbohydrates, and it's all contained in these really nice reports. And when you're entering it on a daily basis, it shows you your current energy, your current calorie input. It shows you what your current calorie expenditure is. If you're hooked to a Garmin or an iPhone or whatever, it'll actually sync with it. So then you can track how much, how many steps you're doing and how that equates over to energy expenditure. So it's really kind of a cool little thing to do. It's chronometer. So let's see, let's also do one other look up here for you and show you. So you're going to hear Dr. Campbell a lot. So let me pull up, let's see. Let's see if we can get. I don't know if this is Dr. Campbell's site or not. Let's see if it is. Actually isn't. There is quite a bit of research out there that backs up this 80-20 rule. So, let's see if this is, no, that's not it either. And of course, I can't find his website right now. But anyway, so again, the research is out there. This nutrition class is going to be, I think, really valuable for you in working with your patients. And I think you'll learn a lot, and hopefully you'll be able to use it. So let's go. Okay. So, next question. So, as a steward of the body, God has blessed you with, and actually we were fixing that slide, and has blessed you with this physical body. So how are you going to utilize it? What are you going to do? How are you going to take care of this body? Well, I mean, 1 Corinthians 16, 19 through 20 talks about your bodies being the temple. And you need to have this temple in order for the Holy Spirit to dwell there so you can perform your mission. So when I teach in HPR 101 and I drive this into them every single day, we need to take care of our physical bodies in order so then we can fulfill the purpose and the mission God has us on this earth. So another reason, really watch your nutrient levels and and pay attention to nutrients and exercise. Okay. So the leading cause of death in the United States, unhealthy eating and physical activity. So if these are all associated with unhealthy eating and physical activity. So heart problems, cancer, stroke, lung problems, diabetes, Alzheimer's, chronic kidney disease. These are all things that can be improved with diet and exercise. So they're lifestyle choices. So we can improve these things. And these are things we can help our patients with, and then we can work with our athletes. So we have this thing called ideal weight. And what is the ideal weight? Does anyone have an idea what ideal weight is? It's kind of individualized for each person. So, I mean, I have people come into the clinic and they come in and tell me, they say, just came from my doctor and they have back pain. And they'll say, yeah, my doctor says that I'm fat and that's why I have back pain. Oh, geez. So now I've got to rewind everything and kind of talk back through everything, because some people have a little bit of extra weight on their body and they're perfectly healthy. And some people are skinny and they have back pain. So it's not necessarily correlated. If they have extra weight, they have back pain. No, there's no correlation there. So I've got to talk them off the ledge. So what my point here is that everybody's ideal body weight is individual. I mean, so it just depends on how you feel, what your health levels are. It depends on, when you get blood workup, how your blood workup is, what your energy levels are, all those types of things. So then we have body composition, and so then we're going to do actually a whole series of tests for body composition. And basically, what we're trying to find is the difference between lean mass and non-lean mass. So the lean mass is going to be our muscle and our bone density. That's what we're kind of weighing there. And adipose is going to be more the non-lean mass. So we're going to get into body composition, and we're going to check that out for each one of us. We're going to make that. Some people are very sensitive about their body weights and their body composition. So we're going to be very careful to take care of anybody's and everybody's needs. So we'll have like individual areas that we'll have for measuring, and you can work with people people that are safe, things like that. So, then we have cardio and respiratory fitness, which is important for health, and everybody can understand that. Muscular strength and endurance and flexibility. So, so what does it take to have a healthy cardiorespiratory fitness? I mean, what does it take to be, what does it take? What do you have to do to be strong in cardio, in your cardiovascular system? What do you guys think? What do you have to do? How often, for how long? What do you think? 20 minutes a day? Yeah, 20. What's that?
I was gonna say, I think for adults, like in the book, it said 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, and then for adolescents and for kids, I think it was 60 minutes a day for 5 days.
Yep, exactly. Good job. And what does it take to be muscular, to have muscular fitness? What does that mean? Pretty common sense, right? Just more muscle mass, strength, etc. So what happens to elderly patients when they start to do like a light weightlifting program for muscular health? What happens to them? Does anybody know? Anybody read any studies on that or anything? What was that? It does, and it just helps again with blood circulation, mobility, all that, also in strength, but it really affects their bone density levels. So that's an important thing when the elderly do muscular strengthening programs. It really helps not only strengthen their bones or strengthen their muscles, but their bones too. So, in the flexibility piece, I'm going to talk a little bit about that. The flexibility piece is probably, I would say, maybe 70–80% of the patients that I see in my clinic. They have flexibility issues and they can't move anymore. So there's certain things that aren't moving and certain things that are compensating to move more for the things that aren't moving. So flexibility and mobility are just crucial to maintain health, especially as you age. As you age, there's this thing called elastin in your body, and mine is getting slower, but as I snap my skin, it bounces back, okay? When I'm in my 70s, probably won't do that. It'll probably stay up there a little bit and it'll slowly contract, okay? You guys do that and it'll snap back instantly. That means you have elastin in your tissues, okay? As we get older, the elastin starts to dissipate, goes away, and then it's replaced with something called collagen. So collagen is more fibrous tissue, and so then we get stiffer. So if we take at the bottom of a tree, if we take one of the sticks, and it's kind of a green stick, one that's recently fallen off, and you tie it in a knot, it'll actually go into a knot, and you can make a knot with that stick. But if I take an older stick that's fallen down from the tree and go to try to make that knot, it snaps, okay? So what that means is that green stick can absorb the stress, and the older stick cannot absorb the stress. So what we want to do is we want to have our bodies so they can absorb stress. So a young kid, as they fall down the stairs, they're able to absorb that stress because their body's mobile and flexible. An older person falls down the stairs and they break stuff, okay? Because they're not able to absorb that stress and mobility, or that stress and force from the stairs. So one of the things I work with my patients is the ability for them to have mobility so they can absorb stress. And that's not only physical stress, but that's also emotional stress too. The more physically mobile you can get your body, the more it can handle a lot of different situations. Okay. Okay, next slide. Okay, so physical activity is defined as any body movement that causes muscular contraction, resulting in the expenditure of energy. So, examples, we have unstructured exercise, which was me working on my boat last night. I'm restoring my boat, and I only swore a couple times, that was it. But it gets frustrating from time to time. But as I was putting my seats in and putting in these weird positions and throwing my body around, that was called unstructured exercise. At least that's what I call it. So, but when you do leisure activities and things like that, that's unstructured. Then you have your structured exercise, which is your workout plans that you put together, and that you'll be putting together for your patients, and that you'll be putting together for your athletes. So, and just because, when you're working with patients from a nursing standpoint, you really have full access to teaching them stuff. So don't think that you don't. You can teach them a lot of stuff about nutrition, a lot of stuff about exercise. So please utilize that time. that patient's sitting right there, because they're normally really receptive to learn stuff, because they're there because things aren't going well. So here's some basic principles of exercise training. So again, we're gonna switch from medical model to exercise model. We'll go back and forth. This is a health exercise science class, but we're adapting it for nursing too. Okay? So principles of overload is exactly what it sounds like. It's just a progression of basic training principles. So basically we're overloading the body with resistance from weights to create stress on the body, because we want the body to respond to it. So the more we stress the body, something in the body called Wolff's Law kicks in. Wolff's Law means when you stress something, that the body will respond by building up tissue in that area. So if you lift weights, people get calluses on their hands, right? Okay, so those calluses are an adaptation to the weights and the extra stress that's put on the skin tissue there. So that's a Wolff's Law response, okay? So principles of overload, you stress the area and it increases in density in the tissue. So our elderly people that are doing their workouts, even though they're 2 or 3 pounders, they're actually stressing their body and their bone structures, muscle structures. So they're gonna have increased muscular growth, and they're also gonna have increased bone density. Okay, principles of progression, it's the same thing. You just do the overload principle, and then you just slowly progress the resistance of exercise. Okay? SAD is specific adaptation to imposed demands. This states that the body will adapt to specific demands placed on it, just like we talked about, just like Wolff's Law. Principles of recovery, you need to have time of recovery in order for your body to heal. So, has anyone heard of, let's see, sympathetic nervous system response, the fight or flight response? Has anybody heard of that? Okay. What happens in the fight or flight response? What happens to our bodies? Heart rate goes up, blood pressure goes up, what else? Think about other systems in the body.
Pupils dilate.
Pupils dilate, right? Because they got to see things. It's fight or flight. I got to see everything, take everything in, because I got to protect myself. Because this bear is going to attack me in front of me, and I got to be able to move and run from it. What else?
You don't have to go to the bathroom anymore.
True. Or it might happen instantly once that bear shows up right there. So, so no. So your heart rate goes up, your respiration increases too fast. Okay. Your muscles contract a little bit. Not a good thing, but they do contract. And then the blood has a tendency to go to the extremities. It's not in your internal organs anymore, so it moves out of the internal organs into your muscles, so you can respond quickly. Okay. There's other things that happen too. There's different hormone releases and things like that happen too. Adrenaline's released. Okay. So when you're in the fight or flight response, is the body really concerned about this little cut you have on the hand right here? Is it going to do anything to heal that? Probably not, because its main concern is to get away from the bear that's about ready to take your head off. Okay. So now let's convert this over to patients. So now I have a patient that comes in, and they're not healing. They've been in chronic pain for like 1.5 years now, whatever part of the body. And I noticed that when they're sitting there, the respirations are slightly increased. They hold their body kind of tight, almost, they're in pain. They're tightening up from the pain. Oh, it hurts, can't move. They're breathing weird. And they're doing this, and you just notice that they're in this, what we just described, they're in this fight or flight response. But they're not in any danger. They're sitting in front of me right now. There's no bear or anything. I don't know, I mean, I can look like a bear. But anyway, they're not in any danger, right? So why is their body doing that? Why is their body in this fight or flight response? Anybody know? It can be, definitely. So what happens when people are in pain, they normally tighten up around their pain spot, right? So if I get hit in the neck, it's like, oh, my neck hurts. Then the next thing you know, you wiggle that thing about 400 times throughout the day and it gets worse. So the neck pain, what happens then is it just perpetuates, and the more you keep it tight, the more your body thinks it needs to protect itself, the more it goes into a fight or flight response locally, and guess what happens? It never heals. So what I have to teach patients is to do the opposite. What is the opposite of the fight or flight response? Hard to write down. Parasympathetic. Who said that? Good. Good. So what happens with the parasympathetic response? Rest and digest, that's exactly it. So what happens to the heart rate? Slows down. Respiration slows down. Pupils strict. Blood flows from the extremities to the internal organs. This is what happens when they go to sleep, right? So then the body can heal, right? But if someone's stuck in the fight or flight response all the time, and this is the low grade level, guess what they don't do? They don't heal. So guess what the first thing I have to teach them how to do before I can even put my hands on them? I have to teach them how to get into the fight, or how to get them out of the fight or flight response. So how would you do that? We're way off on a tangent, but how would you get someone out of the fight or flight response? What would be the first thing you could do to do that? These are hard questions.
Control them.
Exactly. So if you want to control the nervous system, guess what you do? Hey, let's work on slowing your breath down. Pretty easy concept, right? So everybody work with me now, ready? Everyone ready to take a breath in? Okay, here we go. It's a 5-second inhalation in. It's a long one. What I don't want you to do is this. Okay? I want the breath to happen the whole 5 seconds. We're going to pause, and then we're going to breathe out for 5 seconds. Okay? Here we go. Ready? Inhale. Hold. Breathe out. Is that a weird breath? That's kind of a weird breath, okay? But if you want to teach someone how to get out of the fight or flight response, if you teach them how to breathe like this, they have to do 50 breaths like this every day. Guess what's going to happen? It's going to reprogram their body, and they're going to slow their breathing down, and it's going to get them out of the fight or flight response, okay? What's another way we can get them out of the fight or flight response besides with breathing? Any ideas?
Stretching people?
It can be. We start working with the muscles. Yeah. So stretching could be one, is to get their muscles to relax. Because most people who are in fight or flight are kind of they're a little bit tense. So if we teach their body to relax their muscles, if we teach them to relax their muscles, guess what the nervous system's going to say? Hey, we've been tight for so long. Why are you telling us to relax? We've got a bear chasing us. And you're telling the body, it's like, no, there's no bear. We're going to relax now. How about that? So you actually have to teach patients on how to get out of the sympathetic to get to the parasympathetic, and to teach them how to do that so then they can get their bodies to heal. Okay? So these are simple things as healthcare practitioners and as, personal trainers, whatever. It takes about 3 or 4 minutes to teach somebody how to do this. It's super easy, okay? And when people are in a lot of pain, if you teach them how to do slow breathing, guess what it does to their pain? It starts to bring it down a little bit. Because the more sympathetic they are, the more they're tight, the more they're contracting their muscles, the more they contract their muscles. Guess what, when you contract a muscle, does good blood flow go into the muscle? No, okay? But does the muscle still contract and burn ATP and burn fuel? Yes. And then guess what happens when all that when all that exhaust can't get out of that area? It builds up, and guess what, all that lactic acid, guess what it causes? Pain. Okay, so people who are in pain, when they tighten up, they create more pain. So if you can teach them to go boom and relax, and guess what? Now we've got blood flowing in there, so hemoglobin can get oxygen into that area. We get nutrients into that area. We don't compress the joints anymore. A lot of beautiful things happen. So, tool for the day. Teach people how to do slow breathing and how to relax their muscles. So everybody, right now, sit in your chair, and I want you just to tense up your whole body like this. Get it really tense. Your feet, your knees, your back, your head, your face. Make your face tight, everything. And now just, boom, let it go. And just shake it all off for a second. Just shake it all off. So I tell people to do that every 10 minutes until they get it. So it takes a while to retrain the body when you've been tense like that. So now, this adapted for school. So when you're in the fight or flight response, how much are you using your cortical brain in the fight or flight response? Guess. Just throw a guess. 20%, 30%, 90, 100%? 0. When I'm fight or flight response, and if you ask a police officer this, when they've got a gun pointed at them and they have to respond to it, guess what happens to their fine motor skills? 0. Can they think of what to do? Well, I need to lift my shirt so I can pull my gun, so I can point it. I gotta put my finger, no, nothing. They don't think about anything, it's all response, okay? So, when you are fight or flight, it shuts down your cortical brain. You don't think anymore. So when you're taking a test and you're freaked out and the fight or flight response kicks in, what should you do? Take some breaths. Take a few deep breaths and say, okay, cortical brain, I need you to start working again, okay? So that's a little thing you can use in class. So again, way off on a tangent here, but here we go. So the principle of recovery just means that you give your body time to recover from the workload you placed on it. It has to happen. Because if you don't give it recovery time, look at the very bottom, there's something called overuse. And if you don't give recovery time and you continue to work your body really hard, then what your body does, if it doesn't have time to recover, the rest and digest phase, if it can't do that, then it will just break down. People in chronic pain break down, and they continue to break down because they never really have any rest time, because even when they go to sleep, they're tense, okay? So, principle of reversibility. That means that when you stop training, a lot of that just reverses. So you build all this muscle mass, like when I was 23, I weighed 230 pounds. I had 19-inch guns, I had 28-inch thighs, I had a 52-inch chest. It's huge. Guess what? Reversibility. I don't have it anymore. So I don't train that way, so it went away. So that's reversibility. And individuality, that just means that everything is based on your body type, and you need to have an individualistic program. Okay. So what is the role of exercise in health promotion? So let's have everyone turn to figure 1.2, which is on page 6. So this is what exercise does, and everybody can read this. Increases bone density, reduces blood pressure, reverses brain deterioration with aging, increases cardiovascular, aids in weight control, increases muscle mass, promotes health and pregnancy. It does all these wonderful things. So exercise is really valuable. But what is more important? Nutrition, thank you. There's no bias here, there's no bias, okay? So physical inactivity is the primary cause of chronic disease. And I'll put a little question mark to that. You know, again, we've got the nutrition piece too, but I will say that physical activity does lead to a lot of chronic. So the short-term cost, metabolic deterioration along with weight gain. Intermediate term cost, increase in disease. Long-term, increase in premature mortality. So it used to be cigarette smoking was super bad, and how it took 1939, the first study came out that said that smoking would increase, is linked to lung cancer. The first study on smoking was in 1939 that linked smoking to cancer. Everybody get that? That was hard research. And guess when the federal government finally said that, hey, smoking could cause cancer. Guess what year that came out?
95.
Little overshot a little bit. 1964. The Surgeon General came out and said, hey, guess what, guys? If you smoke, it'll cause cancer. Isn't that weird? So that's how long. There's a lot of reasons why. I won't get into the politics behind it, maybe a little bit. So there's a lot of big money going on, and so big money pretty much dictates what happens with policy. So everybody knew it was bad, but the people who had the money decided, we're gonna keep doing what we do. Anyway, so what is the new cigarette smoking in today's? What is the new cigarette smoking? What's that? Bacon? Who said bacon? Oh, vaping. Bacon. I was going to say bacon. Well, yeah, that's exactly right. No, vaping's bad, but drugs and alcohol, that's always bad. It's really bad. We'll step it down a little bit from there, because a lot of people do that, but a lot of people do more of this. Yes, sitting. Sitting is the new smoking. So increased sitting leads to increased waist girth. That is a study. A lot of studies have shown that. Increased sitting leads to increased obesity. increased sitting leads to increased diabetes. So sitting is the new cigarette smoking problem. So why are we sitting in chairs then when I teach you? I have no idea. So for my HPR 101 class, we actually took physio balls and we took them down there and they were rolling around and people were standing and lying on the ground. And actually I like that. So it's called the kinesthetic classroom. Maybe we'll start doing that more in here. Maybe we'll have you like roll around the ground or something. So, what's that?
Do that for functional? No.
Well, functional, we're gonna be in the room next door, so we'll be doing a lot of moving around, so, yeah. Yeah, maybe we can come up with that. Everyone can, you remember, when I was in kindergarten, we used to take naps. And it was just a half day kindergarten too. It was like, it wasn't even like full day, it was like half day. But I had this rug that was shaped as a foot. So it actually had its toes in it and everything, and you rolled it up and you laid it out. So maybe if everyone would bring in rugs, we could just do it on rugs, and then we could just, I don't know, we'll figure something out. So here we go. How much exercise? You guys kind of talked about this earlier, and less than 80% of adults do not meet the guideline for exercise. Okay, do not meet the guideline. Less than 80% of adolescents do not meet the guidelines for aerobic activity. All right. So let's turn to figure 1.5 in your book. I think this is kind of cool. I mean, I think there should be some things that should be tweaked down here, but I think it's overall it's a good pyramid. So if we look all the way to the right, it talks about it talks about all your nutrition, and guess what protein is listed as? Protein. Yeah, and it's smaller. Protein is listed as protein. It's not listed as meat. I like that. That's a really good thing. So I'll try not to skew things too much because I am vegan. You probably picked that up already. So, but so we've got, this is kind of the foundational basis, and then lifestyle and activity is right up on top of that, and then we have strength and flexibility, and then inactivity is real minimal. And we need some inactivity because we need to have that recuperation phase. So I thought this is kind of a good pyramid that you guys probably looked at it very carefully when you read, but I just thought we'd review it again too. So, and then on table 1.1, which is on the next page, it just talks about what is moderate and what is vigorous, and we're going to get into a lot more of those type of, the METs and things like that. So, oh, and speaking of that, there's always one in that class. One in the class. All right, so what is METS? METS is a metabolic equivalent of a task. And it's kind of a good thing to know because when we can, there are MET ratings for each activity level. So based on what the activity, there's a MET related to that. And basically what it's doing is it's measuring the intensity of the exercise expenditure during activity, okay? Which is, one MET is equal to 3.5 milliliter per kilogram per minute of movement exercise. So we have resting at the bottom, we have resting, moderate, and vigorous. So you'll see these MET ratings, and just know that that's just a rating for leisure activity or even exercise activity. So, and it's important because when you're working with your patients and you're trying to figure out maybe calorie expenditure, if you're going to do this for your patient, and they say, well, I wash dishes. Well, there's a MET rating for washing dishes. I did laundry. Well, there's a MET rating for doing laundry. Okay, so then you can kind of figure out throughout their day what kind of aerobic activity they did, so to speak. Okay, so this is a good way to measure that. For that. Okay, so what is the role of nutrition in health promotion? So basically, food is medicine. And Hippocrates said this too. Let food be your medicine, and medicine be your food. And then the role of nutrients. So we have, so the role of nutrients is just super critical here because the nutrients are then going to be the guide that'll set you up to tell you what you need in your diet. So nutrients are the basic foundations of that. Okay? All right, so here we go. So what is nutrition and nutrients? The definition of nutrition is the total sum of the process involved in intake and utilization of food substances by living organisms, including ingestion, digestion, absorption, transportation, metabolism of nutrients in food. And the nutrient is a specific substance found in food that performs one or more physiological or biomechanical functions in the body. So 3 basic functions of nutrients is to provide energy, provide growth and development, and regulate and maintain the physiological process. So, and if you use chronometer is amazing because it shows B1s, B3s, it'll break down every nutrient that you consume, and it'll give you a reading of where you're at with all of it. So if you're taking any supplements, what I tell people before they start doing supplements, do chronometer for like 2 weeks to find out what you're deficient in. Whatever you're deficient in, then go and buy that. Don't buy a bunch of stuff and then just have really expensive urine, okay? Go out, do chronometer, find out what you're lacking, and then go and then get the nutrients to supplement, okay? So I was a bodybuilder for a long time, and I for 10 years, had probably some of the most expensive urine and definitely in my house, because all that stuff was not being utilized by my body. I had no idea what my body even needed. I was just guessing. So don't guess, actually be scientific about this. There's a place called Biomedical Energy Center over in Ann Arbor, and I went to them to find out how what my needs were for my body, and they did a 10-page blood panel. The doctor came back and just showed me everything, from estrogen levels, testosterone, my Ds, everything, laid it all out in front of me, and then we put together a scientific plan of how he was going to help me. So I just don't recommend you go buy a bunch of stuff and say, well, let's just see how I feel. I don't know, just try to be more scientific than that. Do we eat right? Ooh, boy, this is going to get me way off on a tangent, and I don't have enough time. So, standard American diet, SAD diet, the SAD diet. So, this is what typically we have in this country. So we have too many empty calories. So empty calorie is just a calorie that doesn't have any nutrient value to it. So like what I'm gonna have a smoothie for lunch, okay? And there's gonna be kale in it, there's gonna be spinach in it, there's gonna be lots of berries, there's probably gonna be a little bit of plant-based protein, and I'm gonna probably have some almond milk in it. Okay, so that is a super dense, nutrient-dense meal that I can have really fast in between patients, okay? So, but most calories are not, most in the standard American diet are not that way, okay? Like hamburger or something like that. So we have too much fats or saturated fats, we have too many sugars and sweeteners, we have too much salt, too much meat and cheese, too few vegetables and fruits, too few fiber-rich foods, and more than we need, too little of what we need more of. So, Food Incorporated, they're very scientific in what they do. Oh, I gotta talk faster. They're really scientific in what they do. So when they sell product, their primary concern is selling product. So guess what are the 3 major things that they have to put in their food to get you addicted to their food? Sugar. What else? Fat. What else? Salt. Exactly. Those are the 3 things that we get addicted to because our body does crave that. So we do like high calorie dense food because way back when we had to survive, we needed a lot of calories to survive. So we seek after some of these things. So sugar and fats really help give you all those calories that you need, your body thinks you need in order to survive, the winter or survive until the next meal. So that dates back to our ancestors from long ago. So those are the 3 things that they addict you with. Okay, so when you go and you buy some salad dressing, and you look, and what's normally the first ingredient on that?
Dressing.
Dressing. You mean like, what do you mean like dressing?
Like you said the salad, right?
Yeah, like the ingredients portion of the salad dressing. So like what would be the first ingredient?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, I get what you say. On the front it says dressing, so that makes sense. So what would be the first thing, do you think? Sugar, exactly. First thing on it. Try to get away from sugar. Go and look at your products and try to get away from sugar and sodium. It's almost impossible. So Food Incorporated, that's how they know they can get you. So if I have some salad dressing that is just really good salad dressing. It has no sugar in it. And then I have another salad dressing that's really good and stuff, and then I put sugar in it. Guess which one? And I have you try both of them. Guess which one you're gonna like? One with sugar in it. So it doesn't taste good sometimes to eat food that is more nutrient dense and healthier for you, especially when you're being biased by sugar. So, okay. All right, so I need to do 10 slides in 3 minutes. Here we go. So we have 6 classes of nutrients. We have our carbohydrates, we have our fats, we have our proteins, vitamins, minerals, and water, and that's what we're gonna learn about this next month, okay? So we have non-nutrient. So a non-nutrient, non-nutrients can be actually synthesized by the body. And then we have nutrient densities, and then we have nutrients that we need from outside of their physical body. So basically, non-nutrient is something that our body can basically produce, okay? So and then we already talked about nutrient density. So what are some nutrient dense foods? What's that? Fruits and vegetables, pretty easy. All right. So general guidelines for eating, healthy eating. Basically, balanced diet, which is 80% diet, 20% physical activity. Eat more whole foods. Eat lots of plants. Watch your fats. Don't watch them go down your mouth and into your belly, but actually limit them as much as you can. If there's 2 things you do in a diet, if you increase your fiber a lot, you decrease your fats, if you follow those 2 guidelines, you'll be in a great diet. Those 2 simple principles will guide you, and you'll do a great job. So be careful with salt. Don't eat too much protein. How much protein do we need? Ladies, how much does the World Health Organization say you need as protein per day? Anybody know by chance? We'll get into that in the protein section. It's only 46. How much? 46 grams. And how much do men need? 56 grams. That's what the World Health Organization says. So how much protein does standard person in America have? Maybe 150. So anyway, we eat a lot of protein here. Oops, I should have moved on. So we already talked about chronometer, and we're going to do this we have a diet analysis we're going to do to check to see if we're eating right. And then there's a lot of quackery out there, a lot of it. So, and basically, a lot of people when they sell product, they basically play on your ignorance. So they know that the population isn't educated in nutrition, and so they put out these fancy little marketing schemes to try to sway people. So when you're making your decisions for your foods or for supplements, you really have to do a little investigation into it, okay? And then also, even though, I got 2 seconds. So the way that the Dairy Association decided to get rid of soy milk, because soy milk came out at one time, and soy milk is actually a pretty healthy thing. But the Dairy Association did a research study that showed what about soy milk? Anyone? Increases estrogen, which then does what? Well, maybe that could happen too. I didn't think about that. Actually increases breast cancer. So they came out with that, but if you look at the research that came out, who funded it? The Dairy Association, because they were trying to nail the soy industry on it. So you have to be careful with the research that you watch. Okay, I'm out of time. I'll see you guys. I don't know what today is. Today's Monday. I'll see you on Wednesday here. Yeah. Why don't you turn in your worksheets? I'll give them back to you. Okay. Make sure your name's on them and put them right up here in the corner.